Brought to you by Penguin. The Whistling, written by Rebecca Netley and read by Lois Chimimba. Part 1. Chapter 1. 1860. I was one of only 5 passengers taking the boat to Skelthsea. There were no friends or relatives to wave me off, and little comfort to be found inside my good wool coat. Wind blew in from a sea that was the grey of lead, and the scream of gulls was harsh in the morning lull. As the boat rounded the rocks and approached the jetty, I picked up my cases and followed the others down the rutted pier. I was helped on deck where it began to drizzle. A thin, spitting squall, icier than I could have imagined, and I steadied myself with the rail as the vessel tipped this way and that. My fellow travellers showed scant interest in me other than a passing glance, and why should they? I have the sort of face and figure that is unremarkable, a complexion without bloom, and eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. The final passenger, a woman in her early middle age, smiled at me once before disappearing below. Deckhands lugged boxes of supplies from the jetty, and it was another 45 minutes before the steamboat left the harbour. As if on cue, the rain fell in earnest, pitting the sea. "You do well to go down out of the weather, missy," the captain said. But although gusts lashed at my cheeks, I wanted to hold that moment a fragment longer, and did not seek the cabin until a sea mist fell and the land was finally lost from view. Until then, I believe I had not fully realised my decision. Even as I had packed and laid my clothes carefully in the cases, it had seemed that I was in some dream. My friend had watched me from the bedroom door and shaken her head with something like pity. "Are you sure it's wise, Elspeth?" she had pressed. "To leave all your friends behind, the only life you know?" But I had held tight to the letter, and to the way it lit a candle in a dark place. My friend had sighed, and meanwhile, I envisaged Skelthsea, its crags dotted with gulls, how waves might crash and break on the rocks in a tide that washed the sands endlessly new. My fingers went to the locket which held my sister's image. Of all my losses, it was hers that I thought of most, and as we drew further from the mainland, the pain came again and stung as hard as it had in those early days. I scarcely recall the journey, only that, as we neared the island, I climbed from the cabin to watch her approach. I had been told that Skelthsea was beautiful, but the reality stole my breath. Here was the hulk of cliff, the sweep of valley, and high up a curving ridge that caught splinters of the dying sun. The beach was crowded with people waiting for the boat's arrival, chests and parcels ready for transport back to the mainland. Sitting atop a hill lay a house larger than the others. Smoke rose and wound about the gabled roof. I surmised that this must be Iscar, the place that would now be my home. Leaded windows framed many rooms, and with the setting sun behind it, the house cast a long shadow beneath which gorse and scrub shivered in the autumn chill. I tried for a smile, but my face was frozen. The boat drew up to the pier and the engine fell to silence. "Are you Miss Swansome, the new nanny?" A man came aboard and took my cases. He did not smile. I nodded, and without a word of introduction, he carried my bags from the boat and waited as I was helped onto the barnacled pier. It was warmer on land, but afternoon had begun to pull in the curve of the bay. The villagers' attention turned to me with nods and tentative looks, whilst the children regarded me with open curiosity. In spite of the temperature, most were barefoot. "This way," the man walked ahead. I tried to keep up, my feet slipping on shingle as we began the steep path to Iscar's grounds. Rose bushes blackened by frost grew wild and spilled over crumbling walls. Borders that had once no doubt been colourful and abundant had been reclaimed by seagrass and saplings, and I became conscious of the smells. Fish and peat smoke and a thread of sweetness, heather or gorse. "Have you..."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?